everyone. Greetings. Happy Wednesday here on the Steve Deace Show. Live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He is Todd Erzin, and you are you, and that's Aaron McIntyre. I didn't forget you. I just wanted to tease you a little bit.
I got it.
I mean, after what you made me watch yesterday, you are on the feces list, brother. All right. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. By the way, did you see somebody sent out a picture of you and I's faces watching that video in the overtime yesterday?
Yeah.
And just the look you had on your face of just your mouth agape.
Yeah.
And I had that Tucker Carlson look on his face when his guests are like just spewing a bunch of psychobabble drivel, right? Great shot. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Email the show, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, where I will lie to you whenever you see hashtag Facebook approved takes. Know that is a lie. That is regime approved narratives. That's all Facebook wants, is those as regime approved narratives. So I give them to you with my own little twist on things at hashtag Facebook approved takes. Or you can find out what I really think on social media by following me on Twitter at Steve Deace Show, or go to Steve Deace, MeWe, Parler, Gab, and Getter. And then if you're looking for clips of the show that are free of censorship, and then did I say that right? Censorship. There we go. And also free to watch, go to rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. Also, speaking of rumble.com/Steve Deace Show, we have broken out the interview we did with Dr. Ryan Cole yesterday, the Mayo pathologist who is in Idaho and has overseen hundreds of thousands of samples of COVID-19. We have broken that interview out as a singular entity. If you just wanted to watch that by itself and share that with others, I would urge you to do so. That's available for you right now at rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. Also today, of course, it's a Wednesday, so we will play our weekly little game of buy, sell, or hold coming up next hour. We will also be joined at the bottom of the hour by an old friend who now works for Governor Ron DeSantis. He is researcher extraordinaire, data analyst, Kyle Lamb will be joining us here at the bottom of the hour. First of all, we're going to find out what has gone on in Florida with COVID, and why is it suddenly not in the news anymore? That's weird, right? I mean, we couldn't hear enough about COVID and what was going on in Florida in July and August, and it just seems like in the last week or two, everybody's back to, Florida might as well be called Sweden or Las Vegas shooter. I mean, it's like no one's talking about it again. So we'll get into all of those data points with Kyle Lamb at the bottom of the hour. Of course, today is a very special day. It is officially the first day of fall, which means with all the power vested in me by the prime directive of the United Federation of Planets, for the first time officially in 2021, pumpkin spice all the things. Todd, your thoughts?
This is where, it's endless. You have the pumpkin spice holiday, and it goes right into Christmas starting in November 1st.
Yes. I know there's not enough shame-based motivational tactics. I know that there is not enough debasement. I know that I have not that it brings too many people joy other than how you feel doing shots of vinegar alone in a room by yourself at your house. But this is how the rest of us like to roll, Todd.
That's the rest of us. You take the rest of us.
Quick game of buy, sell, or hold here at the top, Steve. Pumpkin spice leftovers.
Probably the only chance leftovers have in my house.
Pumpkin spice Ohio State Buckeyes.
I mean, at this point, Ohio State owns me, has done acts of unlawful carnal knowledge to me as a Michigan fan, so I might as well get some pumpkin spice out of the deal.
Last one, pumpkin spice experimental vaccine.
I think that probably has that has a better chance of holding up against Delta variant than what we're currently seeing, right?
Yeah.
But those were three good attempts. And the middle one actually made me think for a minute, I have to confess. All right, so you got me to at least hit pause for a nanosecond.
And since you're going to need this more than ever, you don't make me hate fall and Christmas, please.
I'm trying to bring you in. It's okay. Commenso festival. Enjoy it. It's all right, Todd. All right. So we're going to do something to open up the show that's a little bit different today. The three of us watched a video last night that aired on Sky News just 2 days ago about a documentary now airing on Fox Nation about the true origins of coronavirus. We're going to play, this clip is available for fair use all over social media, but we're going to play and react to it with you in real time here in the opening segment of this program. Are we ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let us begin. So how much equity do you have in your home? Chances are, if it's a lot, cyber thieves know. And that's what they're doing right now, is they're trolling online databases where a lot of our homes titles are kept. Public databases where they're looking for high equity homes so they can pull your home's online title, forge your signature onto a quick claim deed, making it look like you've sold your home to them so they can then take out loans against your equity, sticking you with the payments. And often you don't even know until those late payment notices begin arriving in the mail. And unfortunately, neither your homeowner's insurance or your mortgage lender can protect you. But this is what Home Title Lock does, is they try their best. And on the unlikely event that something still happens while you're using their service, they've still got an extra layer of legal protection for you there as well. And they want to make sure this doesn't happen to you. It's your most sacred investment, your own home. And right now, that's why they're offering you a $100 value for free. It's called a complete title history of your home to make sure your home's title is in the free and clear. No one has attempted to tinker or tamper with it. You can find that out for free right now. Normally, they charge $100 for this. Free, though, if you register your address today at HometitleLock.com. Again, complete title history of your home for free, just to make sure it's in the free and clear so you can be in the free and clear when you go to HometitleLock.com today. Let's bring in our good friend, Kyle Lamb, researcher, analyst extraordinaire, now working down there in Florida with Governor DeSantis. Good to have you on the show again. Kyle, it's been a while, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Steve. You got that book front and center, and everything you said in there not only was accurate, but it's been kind of prophetic going forward, hasn't it?
Unfortunately, that is true, and I don't know what to think, man. Now I know for sure you've gone jet set, sitting there in a coat and a tie. They've gotten a hold of you down there, haven't they? You've been worked over a little bit, Kyle. I can see that. I'm not used to your normal sports broadcaster, Ohio State fan motif there. You look like you're ready to maybe do some day trading.
I'm all corporate now. What can I say? I sold out to the man.
Well, at least you admit it. So we respect it. Hate the game, not the player, right? All right.
That's right.
So for about 6 weeks, I couldn't go anywhere in my Twitter feed without some awareness of the Sunbelt wave hitting your state's seasonality with COVID. Strangely, though, I haven't seen like anything about what's going on in your state the last few weeks from a lot of media that wanted to make sure everybody in America knew every time someone tested positive or sadly succumbed to COVID-19 in the state of Florida. I see crickets now. Why?
It's amazing. They are very vocal on the way up, and they get very silent on the way down. And I think this speaks to something the governor was saying. It's like, I just saw a poll the other day, kind of showing like how many deaths Republicans and Democrats think that there have been in the United States, and it shows how poor a job the media has done educating people on what's really happening. And that's
or
not to
how
say,
good of a job, brother, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah. That could be too.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, it's not that COVID isn't serious. It is. It's obviously killing a lot of people, but we have to tell the truth. And I think this is something that the new Surgeon General here in Florida said yesterday in a press conference. He said we have to educate people and be honest with people. We can't do this based on fear. And I really think there is just a really, really bad situation here with how we have relayed the effects of this pandemic on people, and they have a misunderstanding. And I think that it's just this going down, with here in Florida, the wave being over, and we've had like 28 days now of hospital census decline. It just goes to show you're not hearing it from the media, and I think I think that's a problem.
So you mentioned 28 days of hospital census decline. Can you give us some other data points of that indicates a waning seasonality. And what do we mean by that? Well, we have long seen a tethering of surges of COVID to traditional cold and flu seasons in particular regions. And so in the Northeast, in Midwest, where you originally came from and we still live, more people are indoors and therefore more susceptible to sickness in the cold time of year. And so that's when those seasonalities hit. Where you live now, it's the other way around, where more people are going indoors and stuff to escape the extreme heat of the summer, right?
Right. Yeah, that's actually, where I used to live and where I live now is actually a great dichotomy there, because Ohio hospitalizations are up 60% in the last 3 weeks. Florida's are down 42%. So, right now here in Florida, we're going one way and Ohio's going the other way. And it's not that Ohio is doing anything wrong. It's not that we suddenly, found a magic secret to get rid of COVID, although I would argue that certainly some of those hospitalizations have been helped by the monoclonal antibody treatments that we're doing. We feel like we are helping people, and I think the hospitalizations are going down in part because of that, but it's not the only reason. It's probably not what caused the initial decline. But that just goes to, it speaks to seasonality, and every part of the country gets hit at different times and in different ways. And I think that's what we're trying to express here. It's like, there has not been a magic formula for stopping COVID. It's sobering. We wish there would, but there's just no way that we can get rid of the virus. And I think we have to accept that. And the sooner that we accept that, the sooner we can go back to our lives and realize things like monoclonal antibodies are necessary. Treatment is necessary. We can't just rely on the vaccine. I mean, we could sit here and have debates all day as to how effective the vaccines are. I think they're pretty effective in preventing serious illness. Some people might disagree with me, but I think we all should be able to agree that we can't just rely on vaccines alone. We need treatments, and I think that's why what's happening with the federal government and limiting the monoclonal supply to Florida. I won't get too far into that, but I think that's a concern.
So I know data analysts, and I don't want you to go too far into that because you don't do the policy making down there. Right. And working with the governor's office, I don't want to put you in a position where you're speaking out of school, but you do study data for them and have data analysis and recommendations on that front. What can you tell us about the effectiveness of monoclonal antibodies, or sometimes it's referred to as Regeneron? That's its brand name. This, for those that don't know, last October, when President Trump went into the hospital with COVID, this was about a month before this product was actually approved from the market in November. This is what he was treated with. All right.
Right.
And this is the second product that that FDA approved as an early treatment. The first, remdesivir, the data on that is very bad. We recently had a study at the University of Iowa that showed that it ranks anywhere from doing nothing to actually extending hospital stays when it is utilized. That's why they don't promote that or talk about that as much. And so the data on monoclonal antibodies, or Regeneron, has actually been very promising from the very beginning. You guys, as far as I know, were the first state to try to make this portable, right? Because typically this requires some form of hospital engagement, if not admission, because it's a series of shots that I believe that you get. It is one method of delivering this treatment. You guys attempted to make this portable for the first time, so more convenient and available. That created a massive controversy because apparently we don't want to help people or something. But what was the data that you saw in real time with the effectiveness of this treatment?
Yeah, well, let me start off with all the clinical studies. I mean, every single one you go through, and I kid you not, I read through probably, when I knew we were going to do this, I read through probably a dozen different studies, and every single one of them would come back 65% effective against severe illness, 70% effective, 75%, 80%. Some of them are even showing 85% against severe illness. So we're seeing time and time again through clinical studies that these monoclonals are definitely having a major impact. And one thing that I noticed early on, after a couple of weeks that we started monoclonals, is the hospital admission curve was going down at a steeper rate than the case curve was. And that was especially true for adults compared to kids. Kids are now going down dramatically as well, but the adults were going sooner and quicker. And if you think about it, who was getting the monoclonal antibody treatments. It was adults. It was not approved for kids. So it would make sense that the monoclonals were having a bigger effect on adults because those were the people that they were preventing hospital admissions. So I think we're definitely seeing in the data that the monoclonals have made a difference by preventing people from being hospitalized. And as I said before, it doesn't mean that hospitalizations went down because of monoclonals, but they are definitely exacerbating the decline. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Last week, your boss, Governor DeSantis, said that about 52% of those who have been in need of the monoclonal antibody treatment were actually fully vaccinated people. And amongst seniors, that ratio is even higher. Can you go into any further detail on that?
I don't have that data. We don't keep it here in the executive office of the governor. That is something that the monoclonal sites that are run by a Department of Health, they have a survey.
So is the Florida Department of Health, those were their numbers that he was citing?
Right. They do a survey of people coming in and they ask those basic questions. So they're running that. But yeah, we did get that. I can tell you, like at the time the governor said that, I think it was something like overall like 40 to 45% of all sites. Some sites were seeing up to 52, 55, 60% were vaccinated. I think at the time it was in the 40 to 45 range, if I remember right. But it underscores your point that monoclonals are not just for the unvaccinated. They're for anybody who are vaccinated. They feel like they've come down with symptomatic illness and they want to have an extra layer of protection just to be safe. And maybe some of those people would not have ended up in the hospital anyway. We don't know what the percentages are, but it's just an extra layer of protection. I think that's the key here.
Kyle, just two buddies here talking. Let's pretend nobody's listening in, okay? What's the benign, innocent reason for why an effective treatment that was given to the President of the United States, that was allowed to come to market by the FDA last November, what's the benign, innocent reason for why you guys a few months ago were the first people to actually go full-bore aggressive in marketing this as an early treatment? What's the benign, innocent explanation for that?
I mean, the innocent explanation, I'll go with what the governor has already said. I think maybe there was a messaging concern that if they start promoting treatment, then it looks like they're not promoting the vaccines. And of course, I know in Florida, we've already been accused of that. So, maybe that was the innocent reason right there, is that they were afraid of pushing this treatment to the point where people that were unvaccinated would think, well, there's no reason for the vaccine because we have treatment. And I think that's the innocent explanation.
Real quick, before I let you go, do you have any numbers from your state? Because I would agree with you that they didn't live up to their human trials, but the efficacy numbers for these vaccines was more than satisfactory pre-Delta. Well, we have definitely seen since August, some ominous trend lines, like my former home state of Michigan. They've gone from admitting 3 fully vaccinated people with COVID into hospitals a day from January through August to now that number's over 9, right? It's like that's tripled, okay? With the ascendancy of Delta. What can you tell us? What do you guys see from the Florida Department of Health, and what's going on there now on the tail end of your Sunbelt wave, vaccinated to unvaccinated?
Yeah, I'm still probably a few weeks behind from having a really good answer on this question. But I can tell you that the vaccinated cases and hospitalizations and deaths still make up a small minority of the total, but they definitely have gone up. I mean, I can tell you from what they were at the end of July compared to what they were a few weeks ago, we've definitely seen a substantial increase. But I think last I saw the total number of deaths for vaccinated were I think less than 20% of all deaths. So they still make up a small percentage. And Steve, I think you and I have had this discussion before. I think also people have got to remember that when you look at vaccine efficacy, hey, look, until we figure out the with from definition, until we get that squared away, this is going to apply to vaccines as well. Because if you test positive and if you count as a COVID death without a vaccine, it's going to apply to being vaccinated as well. So you're going to see some level of vaccinated hospitalizations and vaccinated deaths that may or may not have been from COVID. And until we get all that squared away, it's going to be an ongoing issue.
Kyle, good stuff, man. Always appreciate your perspective and the work you do. You're a great follow for our audience on Twitter. Look him up. Kyle Lamb. Great stuff, brother. Take care, all right?
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
You bet. Hey, you got a million reasons to be stressed out these days, but stressing about your male pattern baldness or receding hairline does not have to be one of them. And that's the good news that Keeps can help you with that because they offer the same doctor-recommended, FDA-approved hair loss treatment, but they offer you the generic version, so you only pay about half of the cost. And then it's convenient. You do everything online. You just talk to a licensed physician, snap a few pics of your hair, and then once the physician gets a chance to oversee your information and situation, they'll recommend an FDA-approved hair loss treatment for you, all done right there online. So you save big money with the generics, and then you save time with the convenience. How about saving even more money, though, to get you started? Half off your first order when you go to Keeps, Keeps, keeps.com/grow. Again, that's keeps.com/grow. Half off your first order today at keeps.com/grow. In the overtime today, we're gonna do the same thing with the recent video with a COVID whistleblower put out by Project Veritas. We're gonna do the same thing with that video that we did with the Fox Nation video here at the top of the program. So if you want to watch that today, we will record it for you right after today's program, and you'll be able to watch it if you're a subscriber when you go to blazetv.com/Dace, DEACE for blazetv.com/Dace. If you're not yet a Blaze TV subscriber and would like to become one, that is also where you can go to get a discounted subscription today, blazetv.com/Dace, DEACE. Next hour, we will begin with our favorite game, our weekly game of buy, sell, or hold. However, I've decided we're only going to do it for the first segment next hour because I think there's a lot of, we've just been sitting here even talking amongst ourselves during the last break. There's some loops that need closed, some dangling participles and hanging chads that need to be addressed after the video we just watched and went through together, both us as a group and then you guys a part of that group as well. And I want to further also have some time to provide some more context into my own hypothesis. But I just think there's too many things, guys, that angles to this that need to be explored. And we should do it while it's still fresh in our memory banks. So we're going to do that in the final segment of today's show. Any quick thoughts here before we get out of here with hour one?
Yeah, well, regarding the fear and learning to live with it and tying that into how he closed there on vaccines and Delta. Delta, remember where we first found out about Delta? It's in India. And India is one of the lowest vaccinated countries in the land. Delta is not doing there what it's doing in other places, which takes us right back to what we need to talk about later on the show and what we started on the show today. You need to go down all the darkest places with this on what this vaccine and what it's doing, because Delta isn't just suddenly boo all by itself.
We'll come back. Hour two is next. Back with Hour 2, live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Aaron McIntyre, Todd Erzin, and all of you. Let us know what you think about what we think. You can email the show to do that, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, where you can find out what I don't think when I lie to you via the hashtag Facebook Approved Takes. You can also follow me on Twitter at Steve Deace Show and then get my real social media perspectives and opinions by looking me up on MeWe, Parler, Gab, and Getter. That's also where I post pretty much everything I can think of on COVID. I still try to get as much of it on Twitter as I can. I actually use hashtag Facebook Approved Takes to do that too, by just posting the links, but just with Facebook's approved take on it. But there's some things I just know I cannot post there. So I post everything though on MeWe, Parler, Gab, and Getter. That's where you can get all of the stuff that we dig up on what's going on with COVID, the vaccines, et al. Also, you can get all that stuff by getting free clips of the show that are also free of censorship over at rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. And finally, if you are a podcast listener, thank you for playing a huge role in the continued growth of the program. Please do this, though, for us. If you haven't yet already, leave us a 5-star review or hit the subscribe/follow button on whichever podcast platform that you prefer. And thanks to all of you that have done those things for us already. Coming up here in just a moment, we will get to our favorite topic, buy, sell, or hold. But first, What if the day comes that they said could never happen, right? We all would have laughed and joked about, hey, we're never going to run out of toilet paper here in the United States. We did. What if the next time that it couldn't happen here happens? It's food. That's why I want to talk to our friends over at My Patriot Supply, because if you act now, you can save $50 on a 4-week emergency food supply for each person in your family with My Patriot Supply, a handy kit that gives you breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, even snacks for a total of 2,000 plus calories per day, so that when it can't happen here, happens again, and this time maybe it's food, you won't go hungry. That's for sure. Again, My Patriot Supply can hook you up, and they'll deliver discreetly to your door. They won't send the Doom Prepper van in the fluorescent pink. But you should also know, though, this food stays good for up to 25 years with proper storage. So check them out right now. Get $50 off right now, a 4-week emergency food supply for each person in your family when you go to preparewithdace.com. That's DEACE for preparewithdace.com. All right, let's get to it. It's our weekly game of buy, sell, or hold. And Aaron, with help from you and the audience usually, will present to you and I, Todd, questions, predictions, prophecies. No topic is off limits. You and I will decide, are we going to buy that? Are we selling that? Maybe we might even have a good reason or 7 why we think that. And if we hold, though, for any reason other than, wow, I cannot believe Aaron even had the gall to bring that to this program, you too will have to sample some bat feces in that Chi-Com cave. Ready?
I feel like I've been sampling that for the last year and a half.
I just set him up and he knocks him down, folks. That's how it works around here.
He's here all week.
I'm tired.
He's here all week. Try the bat stew.
That's also well played. Nice.
All right, we will start with Horsepaced Pony Soldier, who says the looming economic crash will make 2008 seem like a nice day at the beach. Nice, happy, fun one to start out with.
I will sell. And the reason why I will sell is because many of the things that would occur, or I shouldn't say many, several of the things that would be the result of such a crash are happening now. And our never-ending thirst and desire to just print more and more and more and more fiat currency, to just grow more arms and hand ourselves more shovels to dig the hole faster. I don't see that being quenched in any way. And you guys know what my theory on this is, that we can sustain this until somebody decides they want to use a military to call in the note. And I don't see that on the horizon anytime soon, at least not on a meta scale, so I will sell.
If it happened, I would agree that it would be worse. But that's also why I think it won't happen, is because the bread and circuses are required to continue on this level of usurpation on every level. You gotta, the movie, The Matrix, the whole, everything was too perfect. Remember the explanation?
Yes.
The original, inside it was too perfect. So that's why inside the simulation there had to be some level of discomfort,
some
misery.
suffering. Yeah.
Yes. Because, and that's what, too many people will wake up too rapidly if we don't have our Netflix and our football games to go back to and all of those things. It's a tricky balance, but this is the great warning of bread and circuses, and we are as pliable, as spoiled, lazy Western Americans as any generation before in the history of mankind on that front. So they're going to use all the blessings of liberty, the usurpers, to their advantage against us.
Up next, This is Unmasked in Florida. 3 things are true in the Steve Deace nexus.
Love that photo, by the way. Yes.
Michigan football wins every game. It smells like pumpkin spice. And 3, there are no wasps.
That's a buy. I believe that is from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Generations, right?
Yes.
When the villain's name, who I can't remember his name, played by Malcolm McDowell,
right,
is awaiting the arrival of the Nexus, right?
Yes.
So that's a great shot. I love the use of the Star Trek imagery in there as well. And you're 3 for 3, man. You're in. Yeah. That's if anybody's qualified to buy this, it would seem to be me.
Yes, it's your world. I'm just living in it.
Yeah, it's a definite buy. You bet.
Next up, we'll go to dueling politics. Peyton and Eli and their format will eventually replace the main telecast of Monday Night Football.
Sell.
Have you watched any of this?
A little bit, but I've also seen a lot of the commentary about how much people love it. They'll sell. I mean, because they can do both. You just put a standard professional level, broadcast on, you sell the ads into that, and then you just put this on, for people that just want to, mystery science theater, the NFL viewing experience, and you sell that. I mean, it's not going to replace anything. It's going to be an addition to. So they're going to make even more money by just doing them both.
I will sell as well. I'll also add that I think the format could stay. I don't know how long Peyton and Eli will do it. I think this might rotate, and you might have other
Brady and Belichick.
Things like, something like that. The one thing I watched it during the Packer-Lions game, and I loved it. It's fantastic, but they do need some tweaking. They had Favre on, and as a guest, I just caught the tail end of that, and then they had Patrick Willis, a former linebacker, and they need to do a better job. I mean, every new voice you add in while you're trying to react live, it gets a little clumsy. But just when the Manning brothers are talking, it's fun. It's fantastic. It's also like, it's very knowledgeable, but it's less serious, which is what so much of modern sports. I mean, modern sports, they're also serious. They know nothing about almost anything, including sports. They're just bad at it, but they're serious. So this was better. This was fun.
Next up, Infrared 41, fan of chimps, says Mount Rushmore of NFL throwback uniforms: Bucks creamsicles, Chargers powder blues.
Those are a beautiful disaster. Those Bucks uniforms. I'm so in. Yes.
Dolphins 70s and the Redskins 70th anniversary.
I'm okay with. I probably would have not picked the Redskins because I kind of liked the ones they actually wore most of my lifetime growing up better, but. You guys know what I think. And the Chargers have actually gone back to these uniforms. Those are the absolute prettiest uniforms in the history of American sports. I mean, you could wear those things to a wedding. I mean, they are just flat out. That's formal wear to me. Are those powder blue Charger unis? Just beautiful.
I'll buy, but it's throwback uniforms in the NFL aren't like a deep conversation. Baseball is where that conversation is.
Agreed.
Really at.
Agreed, because first of all, baseball's older. Yeah, but I tend to agree. I would also put, I liked the old Denver Bronco uniforms are definitely superior to the ones they wear now. Those should, the Orange Crush John Elway era, those are better. And I would say, the Jets have done 2 uniform updates in the last 25 years, and they were both to return to previous uniforms. So when Bill Parcells came in, they went back to the Joe Namath era green and whites, and now last year they went back to their Wesley Walker, Richard Todd, Freeman McNeil, Mark Gastineau. Wow, I cannot believe how many early 80s
That's a great
New York Jets I still remember. But they went back to those uniforms. So I thought that's
Joe
fascinating.
Klecko?
Joe Klecko was on those teams too. Yeah, good poll. I like that. Yeah, good stuff.
There's one I guess I'd put the Rams helmets when they're white instead of those are sweet.
Yeah, I hate what the Rams have done with their uniforms. They should have just gone back to the Eric Dickerson, Vince Ferragamo uniforms. Instead, they've kind of incorporated them with some like futuristic look, and I just think they're hideous. But the Chargers have returned to the promised land. They now wear the absolute prettiest uniforms in all of American sports history. Close though, those burgundy and powder blue Philly, Mike Schmidt, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan era Philly uniforms that they were wearing the other night. Oh, wow, are those pretty? Those are pretty to look at. But I love the old Padres Browns from the 70s because they're just so uniquely hideous. They stand out. The old green and gold of the A's, they wear those now sometimes too. Your team should wear nothing but the uniforms they wore in the 80s. They should be wearing those constantly.
Okay, preach.
Next up, we'll go to Mini Bomber. The forced vaccination movement is looking a lot like the eugenics movement in the early 20th century.
I'm going to sell. Oh, you said forced vaccination movement. Well, then I would buy. Okay. In fact, you have kind of spoiled the leading premise of Fauci and booster when it comes out here in a few days or a week or so, which is our updated chapter for Fauci and bargain, looking at how to push back on vaccine mandates. That is the exact parallel that is drawn in that chapter, or thereabouts. Yeah. So I will buy.
I'm an anti-vaxxer, so yes.
Next up, Jim Stocker says Justice Breyer will retire before the 2024 presidential election.
I just kind of think we're just at this point better off assuming the worst case scenario of every outcome, so buy.
I'm selling, and I believe it was just last week when I said when he's getting some pressure from the left not to go Ruth Bader Ginsburg because he's not a legend and a woman and all that stuff when he believes the same nonsense that she does, but he can't die there. They need to replace him, and he's kind of rolled his eyes and joked about it. Plus, I also think he knows that either Alito or Clarence Thomas will go before him.
I think if Trump had won re-election, I have no inside word on this. If Trump had won, let me rephrase that. If Trump were still in office, let's go with that. Fair?
Yeah.
If Trump were still in office, I think it is highly possible both Alito and Thomas would have retired by now or would retire by the end of his term.
Wow. Up next, Overton window sticker shock says it's a complete and amazing coincidence that the surname Fauci derives from the Sicilian word for sickle. I did a cursory look at this, and it is true.
It is true.
Fauci. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like Fauci.
That is, again, man, like our first openly bisexual senator's name is Sin Ama, right? Our first openly gay presidential candidate's name is Butt Ajij. I mean, these are the Bart Simpson, I.P. Freely, Buster Hyman jokes we pulled in junior high when they took the roll call and then snickered for the next 7 weeks about, right?
Our first transgender senator is named Lindsey Graham. I'm sorry.
That's well done right there. Do you know that I called him that years ago? And Dana Bash on CNN asked him about this on the air. She didn't mention my name. She goes, there's a talk show host around here that's referring to you as the first transgendered senator. All right, that was about me. You guys remember that?
Yeah. That's hurtful.
I wonder if that clip, that's kind of what he said. I wonder if that clip is still out there somewhere, by the way. I should search for that, all right? But that was very well played, Aaron. Very well played.
Next up, Jonathan Ford says the COVID stats around the world have more to do with the metabolic health of the population than who is vaccinated or not.
Sell. Because I do think what you're suggesting is a factor for sure, but the number one driver of COVID in the world is seasonality. It is the number one driver. Number one. The number one driver of COVID in the world is vitamin D deficiency. That's what we mean by seasonality. So in the Northeast and the Midwest, when it's cold and we all go indoors, what are we lacking? We don't have as much exposure to vitamin D. Now, also, the sun's not out as much or as warm that time of year too, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the South, though, when they have their seasonality and the sun is out constantly, right? And yet that's when they have their peaks, or the so-called sunbelt wave. Why? Because people are more vitamin D deficient. They are more, they're more disabused from sunlight to escape the heat. There's more times indoors. That's what we mean by seasonality. That is the number one driver, period. Now, the number one comorbidity is obesity. That is true. But one of the reasons that is true is because it's like the number one comorbidity to virtually like everything. All right. Other than like I'm 97 years old. Okay. Other than age, the number one comorbidity to absolutely everything is obesity. Okay. So that's not unique. But the number one from a macro statistic, and I take this from a guy that has studied my fair share of macro statistics and data models from COVID-19 for the last 17 months. Fair? Mm-hmm. The number one population health driver with COVID is seasonality and a lack of vitamin D. That is number one. Now, on an individual pathology basis, I would agree with you that the number one comorbidity is obesity. I would agree with that. But it's also like the number one comorbidity for like everything. All right? And except for the stuff that smoking's like the number one comorbidity for. Okay, or cocaine use. But the number one, from an epidemiological population health perspective, the number one driver of COVID is seasonality and a lack of vitamin D, number one. That's why you should all be talking to your doctor. One of the few times Fauci agreed, has talked about this, what did he say? He took like 8,000 IUs a day. I take 8,000 or 9,000 IUs per day. Absolutely, you should be talking and doing your own research. What's the maximum you can take? Because the way your body absorbs vitamin D is a little different than other kinds of vitamins. So what's the maximum amount that you can take of vitamin D given your health profile? You should find that out, and you should be taking that year-round every day.
Because you are so right about vitamins and seasonality, you are also wrong about what number one is. It's clearly lying and fear. Because
well said.
Because any pandemic that is seasonal like this and can be defeated by a steady, honest regime of things like vitamin D, to turn us into what we've been turned into for a year and a half, you need a lot of lying and fear. That's the greatest comorbidity of all, and it's not even close.
That'll preach right there. Well said.
Next up, we'll go to Eddie. The Durham probe will actually take someone of substance down. Is that still going on?
I guess they are going to. I was told that an indictment was coming of someone I've never heard of, but that was like a week and a half ago. Okay. Someone of substance. Like, I'm gonna since you didn't define it, I would define that as like Andrew McCabe, Christopher Wray. Who's the other no self-awareness dude that like posted like deep thoughts by Jack Handey?
Oh, James
Comey. Somebody that to me is somebody of substance, and the answer is clearly no. So.
Next is Forrest. When Republicans take Congress back in the next election cycle, they will impeach Biden.
In the House, I think that's highly possible. So I will buy.
Oh, I'll sell.
Anarcho-motorist says Gretchen Whitmer will be reelected by a slim margin after 3 days of counting mail-in ballots.
Bye.
She is dangerously approaching what I call the margin of cheating, where she's dangerously approaching the outside of that. Now I believe there's approximately 28 Republican candidates last I checked, or is it 29? Okay. Since that's more likely than not, I will buy. I would like you to ask me this question again after the upcoming seasonality in the Northeast and the Midwest. Ask me this question again like in April or May. I'd like to, because she has clearly made modifications to her COVID policy in the last few months, because she's also looking at her numbers too. You know what I'm saying? So, but I want to see, how does she navigate the upcoming the seasonality in her neck of the woods? And I think I might have a better answer to that question then.
Next up, Seth says the Super Bowl will feature 2 quarterbacks that have never been to or won a Super Bowl.
Well, I have to sell because my prediction is the Chiefs and the Packers. So obviously those are 2 guys that have both won and been to Super Bowls, and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. So since that's my pick, dude code calls for me to sell.
Through 2 games, the Chiefs have the worst rushing defense since 1999 in the NFL. I think they'll fix that, but it's not good right now.
I'll sell. There's just all you need is one quarterback to make it there to break this up, and I can think of.
Yeah, so is he thinking of in the AFC? He's thinking of the Bills, right?
Okay.
With Josh Allen, who's never been to a Super Bowl. He's thinking of the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, who's never been to a Super Bowl. You're thinking of the Broncos and Teddy Bridgewater, who's never been to a Super Bowl. Am I forgetting somebody? You're thinking of the Titans and Ryan Tannehill has never been to a Super Bowl. Who in the NFC are you thinking of?
Well, I'll take Rodgers, Mahomes, Tom Brady. Against all I need is one of them to make
one of
it,
those
not
3?
2.
Yeah. So in the NFC, he would be thinking of, I don't know, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I don't think they're good enough. He would be thinking of, no, they were just 49ers were just in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, actually, with this exact same quarterback.
But they don't. Is Trey Lance playing for them? Or
He
is,
but
Garoppolo?
it's like a situational thing.
Okay.
He's not the starter, at least not yet. So yeah, I tend to agree with you. Yeah.
Next up, we go to Louis Costa something. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. I'm just aborting on that. Only those of us who stayed up until 2 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 Mountain Standard Time, in order to ensure the purchase of cookie dough Built Bars when they became available are truly worthy to consume them.
While I appreciate your effort, Louis, I have to sell because Built Bars are for everybody. All right, particularly the chocolate chip cookie dough. You deserve a helmet sticker for making sure, though, that your shipment of manna will arrive, that you weren't left manaless, okay? But, these are for absolutely everybody. And this is actually a great time to mention right now. They're still for sale right now, the chocolate chip cookie dough Built Bars. Get them while they last. The absolute greatest flavor of the absolute greatest protein bar of all time. Use my last name, Dace, as your promo code at DEACE. When you go to built.com, BUILT, for built.com and use the promo code Dace, get 15% off to get the greatest protein bar and the greatest flavor of the greatest protein bar, and for my money anyway, of all time. And that is the chocolate chip cookie dough. It is out there right now while supplies last. Built.com, promo code DACE for 15% off.
Did you see this new study from The Lancet? It shows that Built Bars actually taste 50% better when you use the promo code DACE.
Oh, nice.
Moving on, we'll go to Dustin, who says...
We trust everything in The Lancet we've learned.
Exactly.
Yes.
Dustin says, the chaos in Melbourne, Australia will happen in America before the end of the year.
Bye. On some level, unless something changes. Bye.
I'm going to sell. Here's why. There's a stress point of leverage on both sides of the equation here. One is there's a stress point that works for us. We own guns, and a lot of them. Then there's a stress point, though, that works against us. It's what you said earlier. We're far more open than they are. We have our bread and circus.
Mm-hmm.
We're even getting to go to games. It's amazing that 106,000 adults can go can go see Michigan play Rutgers at the Big House. But in a lot of schools in Michigan, 15, 20, 35 kids have to wear masks. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we have far more access to our accoutrements of convenience and of our bread and circus, as Todd likes to say, than they have over there. And so we have less impetus to push them on that level. And then we own a crap ton of guns. And so they have a little less impetus to step to us on that level too, right? So that's why with both of those impulses and working against each side's zeitgeist, I will sell.
Yeah, and And Steve's right, which is why it's not going to be wholesale, but you are going to have pockets. Perhaps it's going to be reflective of what happens in the school board elections, which are the most national school board set of elections we probably ever had in the history of this country.
Next up, Sean Griffith says, with wins over Arizona, Utah, and Arizona State, BYU should be considered Pac-12 South champs after they beat USC later this year.
Now, frankly, maybe they should be already. They should be in the top 10. I don't know why they're not rated higher than Cincinnati, frankly. I don't know why. That doesn't make any sense. It just goes by because of what your preseason rating bias was. So, but an insane start for BYU. I think they lost more production than any major or a successful FBS program from a year ago, including the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. Just an insanely impressive start for them.
And great timing, cosmic timing, and the Big 12 deserves it to have Cincinnati and BYU doing so well right now.
Yeah.
Moving on, going to Curious George. Next moves in college football realignment. Big Ten poaches 6 Pac-12 teams. Nope, we're moving on. And that's it for buy, sell, hold.
Yeah, that wasn't good. That's not happening. Yeah.
Let me do this. We did this a few times last year.
Okay.
Quick power rating on the NFL. Are you buying, selling, or holding these 2-0 teams? The Panthers.
Buy. I like Sam Darnold with actual weapons around him. Yeah.
Sell.
Cardinals.
I'm going to sell just because of the division is too hard. Yeah.
Broncos.
Buy because of their defense, and they have a quarterback that knows how to not lose football games.
Yeah. Raiders.
Buy.
This was my original favorite team. I'd love for them to be back. It seems kind of gimmicky to me, so I'm going to sell.
Buccaneers.
I mean, they've got the GOAT, so buy.
Yeah, buy.
Rams.
I mean, I'll buy.
Yeah,
I'll buy.
I'll buy.
I mean, they won last week against Indianapolis. Trust me as a Lions fan, that's the game I've watched Matt Stafford lose his entire career.
Yeah, has he ever been 2-0?
Okay, it's just the team around him now. He wasn't actually that good this last Sunday, but the team around him was just too good.
49ers.
Buy. They could top to bottom be the most talented roster in the NFL.
That's it.
All right, we'll come back, and we have some finishing thoughts on the video that we played at the top of the show about the true origin of COVID-19. And we would be remiss if we did not discuss some of those dangling participles. So we will do that when we come back.